Hey everybody, this is your week 5 overview, and before we get started I wanted to go in and give you some kudos. I have finished looking over your first discussion post, gave you feedback on all of that, and overall, very good job. You answered the questions thoroughly and stayed on topic for the most part. There were a couple of folks that chased a couple of rabbits. I gave you feedback on it. The only concerns I had were a couple of folks that I think cut up and edited up their videos. That's not what I'm looking for. These are simulating class discussions, so I want you to just talk to me about this. Now, love that you're citing the book. I love that you're citing external resources. Keep that up. Very good. There were a couple of folks that I think were having some audio issues throughout, so please make sure that you keep an eye on that. If you're using your phone, using your laptop, iPad, some tablet device, it's all good. I just need to be able to hear you. I'm working on your tests right now. I'm hoping to have your tests graded and back to you by the end of this week. So that's the goal, maybe by the beginning of next week. I think I have everyone's in and didn't have any problems with that. If you've got any concerns or questions about the test, please let me know ASAP. All right, let's go ahead and jump into this week. All right, this week you're going to be talking largely about the penny press. The penny press. In your book, it's going to be chapters 7 and 8. Now, the big things that I'm going to want you to pay attention to in this chapter or in this week's chapters are essentially the elements that are associated with the paradigm shift in the business model of the press in America, particularly how it shifted from a top-down model that was focused very heavily on the upper crust, more aristocratic, more well-to-do individuals in society, in short, those with money, to a business model that was focused more on the common man. Now, there are a variety of things that went along with this. Now, a couple of things I would urge you to pay attention to. First off, in the previous model, much of the printing was an expensive thing. New media, new technology in general always comes out and it's always expensive. The price goes down over time as the innovation moves through society. Price of that innovation goes down. Think about cell phones, DVD players, video game consoles, things like that. The relative cost of these things do go down over time. And printing was no different. But in the early days, it was very expensive, which means that the printers did have to pay the bills. They were either associated with political parties, they were associated with religious organizations, or they sold to people who had money. Now, when we get to this point in time, when we start talking about the penny press, we're talking about a time when folks like Benjamin Day, James Gordon Bennett, these individuals started shifting the focus from the higher up individuals, folks with lots of money, and said, well, what if we targeted, instead of this a very small group of people with a lot of money, the average person who may not have a lot of money, but there's way more folks out there who have a little money and still want news, information, and diversion, and are willing to pay for this. So instead of looking for small people or a small group of people who can pay a lot, we're looking for a large group of people who can pay a little. It's a quantity, it's bulk that they're looking for. Now, so I want you to pay attention to how that shift then had rippling effects. For example, how the content changed. So when you change the target demographic, how do you change the content to appeal to that target demographic? How do you offset the costs with things like advertising? That's something I want you to pay attention to as well. You're also going to learn about some individuals like, and I love this, Frederick Douglass, huge guy, was a fascinating individual, one of the most pivotal African American individuals in the early United States, I would say. Fascinating guy. Your book does a great job talking about him. I don't want to get into it. There's so many things we could talk about. Little known fact, and this is interesting about him. Frederick Douglass never took a picture where he was smiling because at the time it was a very common thing to depict happy, smiling slaves. It was a propaganda campaign in the South. Frederick Douglass combated this by never taking a picture of himself smiling. It was a fascinating piece of little history minutia that you might find interesting. Anyway, he was an African American writer and printer. Was active at the time, and your book talks about him. Pay attention to him. He's a hugely important individual. Okay, I'm not going to get too much into this, but again, the primary thing we're looking at this week will be the printing press. Dig into it, pay attention to the elements that I talked about, and as always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, let me know. I'd love to talk with you about any concerns or problems that you have. All right, let me know if you have any of those things. Otherwise, have a great week, and I will talk to you later. Bye.